Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Janet Wiley, the Assistant Dean for Development and Alumni Relations at the University of Maryland School of Dentistry. I'm delighted that we've come together for this virtual celebration of the Dr. Paul and Mrs. Jean Corcoran Endowed Professorship and to witness the installation of Dr. Robert K. Ernst as the first person to be named to this esteemed professorship. Thank you all for joining us. With this investiture ceremony, we have an opportunity to salute Dr. Ernst's notable achievements and innovation throughout the years and his ongoing research. We also are able to express our immense appreciation to our donors. Dr. Paul and Mrs. Jean Corcoran, please allow me to thank you for your vision, commitment, and generosity to the School of Dentistry. And now it's my privilege to introduce Mark A. Reynolds, Dean and Professor of the University of Maryland School of Dentistry. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dr. Reynolds.
Thank you, Janet. Good afternoon. I am pleased and proud to welcome each of you to this investiture ceremony. An endowed professorship is one of the highest academic awards that a university can bestow on a faculty member. Today, we have gathered to honor Dr. Robert K. Ernst on the occasion of his investiture as the Dr. Paul and Mrs. Jean Corcoran Endowed Professor. We also wish to recognize and celebrate the remarkable generosity and leadership of Dr. and Mrs. Corcoran, who enabled the establishment of this professorship. Their gift to establish an endowed professorship is one of the most enduring contributions that can be made to an academic institution. Endowed professorships play a unique role in academic health institutions, sustaining scholarship, supporting discovery, and enhancing clinical care. Endowed professorships are an endorsement of the school's legacy of excellence and impact. They make it possible to recruit and retain the most talented educators, clinicians, and scientists. Endowed professorships also bestow recognition and distinction on outstanding faculty, creating space for cultivation of a legacy that will flourish through academic excellence, scientific advances, and clinical care. During our ceremony, you will hear warm comments from the friends and colleagues of Dr. Ernst as they highlight his extraordinary work and career. I would like to offer my sincere congratulations to you, Dr. Ernst, for your many notable contributions during this very special occasion. Your groundbreaking and pioneering research in microbial pathogenesis enriches the academic environment, promotes student learning, and propels discovery-based clinical care. Before we move ahead, I also would like to express my deep gratitude to Dr. Paul and Mrs. Jean Corcoran. Together, they have been steadfast and generous supporters of the University of Maryland and the School of Dentistry. Dr. and Mrs. Corcoran, with the establishment of this endowed professorship, your gift to the school will help advance Dr. Ernst's significant work now and in future years. On behalf of the School of Dentistry, I wholeheartedly thank you. And now I would like to introduce Dr. Paul Corcoran, who will offer a few remarks. A 1968 graduate of the University of Maryland College Park and a 1975 graduate of the University of Maryland School of Dentistry, Dr. Corcoran moved to Colorado, where he established a highly successful dental practice and served as an invaluable member of the community healthcare system. He also met his wife, Jean, in Colorado, who, after a successful career as an award-winning kindergarten teacher, joined the practice as the office manager and partner. Dr. Corcoran has been recognized for his excellence in clinical care and for his scholarship on patient care, including the early detection of head and neck skin cancer. Since selling the practice in 2018, Dr. Corcoran has continued providing dental care to patients in private practice on a part-time basis, as well as treating underserved patients at a federally qualified health center in rural Colorado. I would like to again express my gratitude to Dr. and Mrs. Corcoran. Through their philanthropic generosity and vision, they have established an endowed professorship that will have an enduring impact on the School of Dentistry, burnishing its reputation and bolstering its scholarship in the years to come. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Corcoran.
My thesis statement is that UM is all that's right with state schools. Background, from Rockville. My parents were high school grads. My father worked for the federal government for almost 50 years in military and civilian service. I'm the oldest of 7 children. After a less than stellar high school career, I landed at College Park, the beneficiary of a liberal admissions policy and bargain tuition. With many challenges on the journey, UM transformed an 18-year-old boy not a man, into a dentist and changed my life. At College Park, I joined an amazing fraternity where we lived the ideal of brotherhood, and virtually all graduated in 4 years. A disproportionate number went on to dental, medical, graduate, and law schools. Further, I was blessed with two outstanding professors, Dr. Huey in chemistry and Dr. Haley in zoology. Both men bent over to extend help to struggling students, including me. The dental school presented even more challenges, some extremely difficult, but with support of classmates and three exceptional professors, Dr. Gigliotti, Dr. Dosh, and a microbiologist, Dr. Donald Shea, graduation was achieved. As with College Park, these dental school professors went far beyond what was reasonable to help students graduate. The joke that no one remembers who won the Super Bowl or World Series 5 years ago, but everyone remembers their 5 best teachers is all too true. After 2 associateships, I moved to Colorado and new challenges to establish a practice. Fortunately, I again found mentors, some of which have become lifelong friends. One of the mentors, Dr. Robert Schallhorn, an excellent periodontist, advised me always to take the dental high road. Dr. Schallhorn introduced me to his referral and specialty team. From there, my practice soared. 45 years later, it is still a joy to serve patients. The periodontist above, coincidentally, was an instructor for Dean Reynolds when he was a perio grad student at the Maryland Dental School. Dean Reynolds has an ongoing professional relationship with Dr. Schallhorn's daughter and granddaughter, both of whom are superb periodontists. Gene and I have contributed to College Park and the dental school over the decades. When Dean Reynolds proposed an endowed professorship for Dr. Ernst, my mind immediately flashed back to Dr. Shea and his Herculean efforts to help me. Gene and I are fortunate to be able to give back to the dental profession. In closing, changed my family's vision of what was possible. I became a dentist, my brother a physician. One sister has a graduate degree, a second sister became an attorney. Changed my family in such a positive way. Bravo, bravissimo. Fear the turtle.
Thank you, Dr. Corcoran. Now please allow me the honor of introducing our next speaker, Dr. Patrick Bavois. Dr. Bavois is professor and chair of the Department of Microbial Pathogenesis at the University of Maryland School of Dentistry. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Bavois.
Good afternoon. It gives me great pleasure to celebrate the new Dr. Paul and Mrs. Jean Corcoran Endowed Professorship bestowed upon Professor Robert K. Ernst of the Department of Microbial Pathogenesis at the University of Maryland School of Dentistry. I will from now on refer to Bob Ernst as Bob simply. I would like to again thank Dr. and Mrs. Corcoran for making this endowed professorship possible, and the Dean of the School of Dentistry, Dr. Mark Reynolds, for selecting Bob and the Department of Microbial Pathogenesis as its inaugural recipient. I would also like to acknowledge the great assist in recruiting Bob to the School of Dentistry given by Professor Jim Caper, the James and Carolyn Frankel Distinguished Dean's Professor, Vice Deans for Academic Affairs, and Chair of the Department of Microbiology and Immunology of the University of Maryland School of Medicine. Thank you, Jim. I'm glad we listened to you. Someone once told me, if you want to build a strong department, you have to recruit people whom you think are going to be better than you. In the case of Bob, I may actually have overdone it. Bob has been simply outstanding from the get-go in each aspect of his academic functions: service, teaching, and research. He has represented our school on some of the most important committees on campus. The list is too long to mention, but a recent example is the all-important UMB COVID-19 Research Advisory Task Force. He has been equally impressive as an educator, receiving highly favorable student evaluation year after year, and creating and launching new courses and sitting on progression committees. Little wonder that his lab attracts some of the best students in the UMB-wide graduate program for the life sciences. Little wonder that his group has grown from 3 members to 12 members, including research assistant, graduate student, postdoctoral fellows, and 1 very promising research assistant professor. How did this happen? I will tell you. Bob Ernst brings a positive, interactive dynamism to everything he undertakes. In research, he personifies the UMB core values of excellence and collaboration. He is one of the most accessible researchers on campus and a sought-after collaborator. Very soon, it will be difficult to identify anyone at the university with whom he does not collaborate in some fashion or another. Moreover, Bob does not run his laboratory. His laboratory and his science run him. And when he walks to his laboratory, even with a bad knee, he actually walks as fast as I can run. His research focuses on the lipidae portion of the ubiquitous lipopolysaccharide of gram-negative bacteria, which includes some of the most notorious pathogenic microbes on planet Earth. This topic was somewhat dormant before Bob tackled it in close collaboration with David Goodlett, a superstar investigator in the field of proteomics and mass spectrometry. One of the questions when Bob was first recruited was, would what was then a niche field of microbiology develop into a more substantial field of research? It did. And then some, no small thanks to Bob's leadership. During his 13 years at the School of Dentistry, Bob's lab has produced landmark publications ranging from fundamental discoveries on the structure of lipidae and modifications thereof on a multiplicity of pathogens, to translational application of the knowledge he gained to benefit public health. Today, some of the most impressive growth of Bob's research is in the development of application in diagnostic science, therapeutics, and vaccine adjuvancy for multiple infectious disease, including COVID-19, which all have real potential to better or save human life. When Bob came up for promotion as his chair, I had an easy job. His teaching and service were exemplary, and his research was more than thriving. And awards started creeping in too. 3 recent awards stand out as they illustrate the broad range of Bob's academic excellence. UMB Researcher of the Year Award in 2017, the Mark Shurtleff PhD Mentor of the Year Award in 2018, and the UMB Entrepreneur of the Year Award in 2019. And now, of course, the Dr. Paul and Mrs. Jean Corcoran Endowed Professorship. Although this makes for an impressive pedigree already, it is not the end by any stretch of the imagination. Bob is clearly still on an upward trajectory, particularly in his research. The relatively slow-moving field it was once, the role of bacterial lipid in microbial pathogenesis and the host response, has gradually become one of the most significant areas of research in infectious disease today. Before I conclude, I would like to thank Bob personally. You have made my job as your chair easy and most rewarding. I am grateful not only for the candy and the occasional brandy in your office, but most importantly for your indomitable spirit in science and life. You are a great model for students and faculty alike. So thank you, Bob, and thank you all for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Beauvois. And now I'd like to introduce Dr. James B. Caper. Dr. Caper is the James and Carolyn Frenkel Distinguished Dean's Professor at the University of Maryland School of Medicine, where he is also Vice Dean for Academic Affairs and Chair of the Department of Microbiology and Immunology. Please welcome Dr. Caper.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. James Caper, Vice Dean for Academic Affairs and Chair of the Department of Microbiology and Immunology at the University of Maryland School of Medicine. I'm very pleased to speak today about Dr. Robert Ernst on the occasion of his being invested as the Dr. Paul and Mrs. Jean Corcoran Endowed Professorship. This is a richly deserved honor and well-earned recognition of Bob's many research and professional accomplishments. I myself am very fortunate to hold an endowed professorship as the James and Carolyn Frenkel Distinguished Dean's Professor. Bob was a memorable participant in the celebration of my investiture and I'm so pleased to play a role in his investiture as the Corcoran Professor. I first met Bob in 2007 when I was recruiting a new faculty member to the Department of Microbiology and Immunology in the School of Medicine. I was recruiting for one position, but we had 3 outstanding candidates who I wanted to hire. 2 of these candidates were slightly more aligned with our research needs in our department, and I managed to hire both of them. But I believe that the third candidate, Bob Ernst, would also be a great hire. I knew that Patrick Beauvois, the chair of the Department of Microbial Pathogenesis in the School of Dentistry, was starting to search for a new faculty member, and so I forwarded Bob's CV to him and urged him to seriously consider Bob. Bob was then at the University of Washington and looking to relocate to the Baltimore, Washington area. I remember going to dinner with him in Little Italy on his first visit to UMB and feeling an immediate connection with him. Both of us did our postdoctoral fellowships at the University of Washington at different times, and we knew many people in common. We shared stories of living in Seattle over dinner. There really was no other comparable candidates in this search, and Bob soon joined our microbiology and immunology community here at UMB. Even before he arrived on campus, we arranged for a secondary faculty appointment in the Department of Microbiology and Immunology in the School of Medicine. In recalling this recruitment, I was thinking that if I had the opportunity for a do-over, I would have pressed my dean for the additional funds to hire Bob in my department because he was a spectacular recruit. Perhaps I should send Dean Reynolds a bill for a finder's fee for helping to recruit Bob to the School of Dentistry. There are many words and phrases that I could use to describe Bob Ernst. High energy is the first one that comes to mind. Sometimes his high energy might border on the manic. His lab members have many stories of Bob rushing into the lab, waving a paper that he'd read that filled him with new ideas. His enthusiasm will sweep others up and cause a whirlwind of activity to pursue new research leads. He's not just hardworking towards his own research goals, but is also hardworking in the service of others. With his participation in and frequent leadership of numerous committees for the School of Dentistry, the School of Medicine, the UMB campus, the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, the NIH, and many other organizations. This high energy goes with another characteristic of Bob, which is creativity. And together, they are a formidable combination in a researcher. His work on using mass spectrometry to analyze lipids of both the microbial pathogen and the host cells is a highly innovative way to study host-pathogen interactions. Using cutting-edge instrumentation and techniques, this approach can produce an image of the pathogen in the host tissue by characterizing the lipids produced by both the microbe and the host tissue in response to the infection. This is truly disruptive technology that has resulted in several high-impact papers that will point the way for others to use this approach to study a wide range of microbial pathogens. Time limitations don't allow a full description of his many research accomplishments here, but a general theme was best expressed by his former student and collaborator in these studies, Dr. Allison Scott. Allison refers to, quote, Bob's belief in looking at problems from a new perspective, where he will leap in that direction with an unshakable conviction that things will work out if the right people and parts are in place. Allison describes many hurdles in troubleshooting and developing this technology, where her confidence in a successful outcome waxed and waned along the way, whereas Bob's conviction in a successful outcome never faltered. It is primarily this characteristic that leads Allison to describe Bob as a, quote, pathological optimist. Bob's work with Allison illustrates a striking example of another Bob's characteristics in that he is a great mentor to trainees in his lab. He shares the characteristics of all great mentors. He doesn't regard mentoring as just imparting a list of job skills like laboratory techniques or writing manuscripts, but he provides encouragement, support, guidance, advice, and serves as a sounding board for his mentees. His advice to his mentees is not necessarily what is in his own best self-interest, but is advice that is in the best interest of the mentee. Great mentors can give directions, but more importantly, They provide the environment and the support where the mentee can find their own way. Great mentoring is not about creating replicas of oneself, but Bob's goal as a mentor is to maximize the potential of his trainees. Bob's excellence as a mentor was recognized in 2018 when the G-PILS program for graduate student education in the School of Medicine, in which the School of Dentistry also participates, established the Mark E. Shurtleff PhD Student Mentor Award and named Bob as the inaugural recipient for this great honor. Beyond mentoring students and postdocs, relationships with his colleagues at UMB and around the world are extremely important to Bob. The Department of Microbiology and Immunology in the School of Medicine and the Department of Microbial Pathogenesis in the School of Dentistry function in many ways like a single large department. We have a shared graduate student program, shared teaching responsibilities, and numerous interdepartmental collaborations. Together with other colleagues in the departments of medicine and pediatrics in the School of Medicine, we comprise one of the largest and strongest microbiology and immunology communities in the country. And Bob is a big part of that seamless interaction between the two departments and within the community at large. He is endlessly collaborative and is a co-investigator or consultant on numerous grant proposals with School of Medicine faculty. But these formal collaborations are just part of the story. Bob is a wonderful colleague with whom to sit and talk, perhaps with a drink or perhaps without. He wants to hear about your science and is full of helpful suggestions to aid your research. He wants to hear about what else is going on in your life, and he'll readily reciprocate with his own stories. Bob is great at welcoming strangers and making them feel comfortable, either in person-to-person settings or via Zoom. At receptions to welcome applicants for our graduate program, Bob will step up to the nervous students visiting for the first time and start talking to them, asking about them, telling them about our program, and giving them a very warm welcome. The importance of relationships to Bob could be no better illustrated than in the aftermath of the tragic death of our dear friend and colleague, Mark Shurtleff. Bob received the news of Mark's death on a Friday night, and on Saturday, he had gathered members of the Department of Microbial Pathogenesis, the housekeeping staff, and anyone else who knew the irrepressible and unique Mark Shurtleff. He gathered these friends and colleagues together on the 9th floor on a Saturday morning to collectively mourn and remember Mark. And soon he was leading a group out to Montana to attend a memorial service by the river where Mark died. He provided comfort and support to so many people during that tragic time. So besides talking science to colleagues and welcoming nervous student applicants, Bob is a great friend to have in really tough times. He's a dear friend to me and to so many other people, and it's wonderful to be able to celebrate him on this occasion of his investiture as the Dr. Paul and Mrs. Jean Corcoran Endowed Professor. Bob, I'm sorry that we can't celebrate in person, but let me at least raise a glass to you and toast to your good health and great success in your future career. Congratulations.
Thank you, Dr. Caper, for your warm words about Dr. Ernst. And now I'm honored to present Dr. David A. Raskow. Dr. Raskow is professor in microbiology and immunology at the University of Maryland School of Medicine and professor at the Institute for Genome Sciences. Please welcome Dr. Raskow.
Good afternoon. I'm David Raskow. I'm a professor in the Institute for Genome Sciences and Department of Microbiology and Immunology at the University of Maryland School of Medicine. I'm very pleased to share some thoughts about Dr. Robert Ernst on this occasion of his being invested as the Dr. Paul and Mrs. Jean Corcoran Endowed Professor. This is an honor well-deserved and represents the recognition of Bob's role as mentor, scientist, entrepreneur, and thought leader. I first met Bob in 2008 when I joined the faculty at the University of Maryland School of Medicine. It became clear to me that we had a connection on how we deal with people as well as our drive to excel in science. I've had a long-standing thought that when you are as nomadic as we are as scientists, especially early in our career, you gravitate towards people that you like, whether at work or not, and the people you respect scientifically. Bob fits both of these categories for me. While he isn't officially part of our department, although he has a secondary appointment, he integrated rapidly into collaborations with a number of people and has been a great asset to the university in general. Every time I see him, he is on his way to talk with someone about an ongoing collaboration or an upcoming grant application that he is collaborating on. Now, some of you may think, how is a microbiologist involved in all of these collaborations? That's the trick. Bob makes you think that he is a microbiologist, but he really isn't. He's much, much more. His graduate training started in a viral lab and ended up in a more biochemical lab. His postdoctoral work was completed in a Salmonella pathogenesis lab, which is one of the most competitive communities in bacterial pathogenesis. His lab now works on more bacterial pathogens than mine, and we mainly focus only on the genome sequencing. And that's just Bob's academic side. He's also an entrepreneur, as evidenced by him being named the UMB's 2019 Entrepreneur of the Year. And that is the second major award he has won at UMB. The first was the UMB's 2017 Researcher of the Year. But I think he may be most proud of another award, the Dr. Mark E. Shurtleff PhD Student Mentor Award. While perhaps not as prestigious as the other two, it may hold more meaning. More meaning because of the association with our late colleague Mark and his memory, but also because it recognizes how seriously Bob takes his mentorship duties. Bob tries to impart his ability to walk the fine line between many different concepts, pathogens, and approaches to solving problems. I think one of the most important things I have seen Bob do is give trainees at all levels the flexibility to try things and fail, and then find their own way back. It's much harder than it sounds, and he is a master at this. I've had the joy of being able to watch Bob's group from afar, as well as collaborate closely on a number of projects. I'm always amazed by his ability to make the person he is speaking with, whether they be student, postdoc, collaborator, investor, business associate, dean, or vice dean, feel as though they are the center of attention and have his ear. For example, at a previous investiture dinner for Dr. James Caper, Bob was seated next to Dr. E. Albert Rees from the School of Medicine, and I happened to be across the table. Bob spoke with him as if he were just another attendee and not the dean of the School of Medicine. Many people do not have this ease with interactions as Bob does, and he carries them off with a plume. Over the years, Bob and I have had an open door policy between our groups. Trainees and personnel move between the groups. Ideas also flow freely between the lipid-centric work that happens in the Ernst group and the genomic-centric work in mine. When all the data agree, it's great, but when they don't, that's when things really get interesting. I'd like to be able to say that I have Bob all to myself, but he is like this with pretty much anyone who is interested. His openness with ideas, reagent, equipment, and people is a great example for all who come through his lab. I've been at a number of universities where there has not really been a sense of community, but I can say without reservation that at Maryland, there is a great community among the microbiology faculty. And Bob plays a huge role in fostering and maintaining that sense of community. As you can tell, it's tough to sum up Bob in a few words, like really tough. He does many things and he does them very well. He's a good friend and mentor and person. As an example, at the start of COVID, we were working on a grant together and I was putting the final touches on it, but COVID interfered with my childcare. Bob volunteered to come to my house and watch my kids while I put the final touches on the grant to be submitted. This is just an example of how selfless he can be. I'm sure he had other places to be and Zoom calls to be on, but he put my needs above his to make sure that we submitted the grant on time. He is like this with everyone, an example to many of how we can try to act with grace and understanding. He's a dear friend to me and many others, and it's wonderful to be able to celebrate him on the occasion of his investiture as the Dr. Paul and Mrs. Jean Corcoran Endowed Professor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rasko, for your kind observations and insights about Dr. Ernst. At this point, I would like to present the medallion. To mark this important occasion, we have gathered today to recognize and celebrate Dr. Ernst and his achievements and contributions. It is truly a pleasure and source of pride for me to present one of our school's highest honors to you, Dr. Ernst. The Dr. Paul and Mrs. Jean Corcoran Endowed Professorship honors your pioneering work as an educator and scientist. I know that your colleagues and friends throughout the School of Dentistry and the School of Medicine who are in attendance today will agree with me that you are most deserving of this recognition and esteemed professorship. And I know that your family members are exceedingly proud of you. I am honored to present this medallion to you. It signifies that you now have become the first Dr. Paul and Mrs. Jean Corcoran Endowed Professor. I hope that you will wear this medallion proudly wearing and displaying it at major events such as investiture ceremonies, convocations, and commencements. Congratulations, Dr. Ernst. At this time, Dr. Ernst, I would like to invite you to say a few words.
It's my pleasure to be here today to celebrate the generous gift by the Corcoran family that established the Dr. Paul and Mrs. Jean Corcoran Endowed Professorship in the School of Dentistry, Department of Microbial Pathogenesis at UMB. Pre-COVID, this would have been a celebration on campus where we'd have gotten together to meet each other in person, share stories, laugh, celebrate with a few or more libations of our choice, but we'll have to wait for a future time. But I promise that we'll get here sooner than later, and I look forward to seeing all of you in person. To start, I'd like to specifically thank Jean and Paul and their family for establishing this endowment. Being named the Dr. Paul and Mrs. Jean Corcoran Professor is a prestigious award. It comes with great responsibility, and I look forward to interacting with Jean and Paul frequently, and I will keep them apprised of the successes that we have in the future due to their gift. I see this as a lifelong collaboration between their family and my lab, and when we're able to travel again, I welcome showing them around our floor, our building, and showing Paul the new building again. I would also like to thank our Dean, Mark Reynolds, for making me the inaugural awardee of this professorship. It is a great honor and reflects the support and brilliance of the graduate and dental students, postdocs, volunteers, research faculty, and mentors who I've had the pleasure of training and collaborating with during my career at multiple universities, but more on these groups later. I would also like to thank my wife, children, and family for their support throughout the years, for their constant and unwavering support. We have all been on this journey together, and I couldn't have done this without them. And I also appreciate the many questions that my family has asked throughout my career, such as, "And what are you studying again?" This was an extremely important question, as it constantly reminded me that no matter what type of research that I was doing, one of the most important things that researchers have to do and remember is that we do not do this in a bubble, and we have to be ready to talk about our research in a clear and understandable manner. So, thanks, Dad. Finally, to my UMB colleagues in many schools on campus, thank you. You've made the past 13 years fly by, and many of my successes I have shared with you, and we celebrated together with you. The collegiality present on this campus is unprecedented, and I look forward to working together on future projects and celebrating our successes, or just Tuesdays as needed. My door is always open, or any other door that UMB has given me proxy to. Thanks, Dave. Science requires perseverance, and I have been taught this lesson many times through my academic career. I have been lucky enough to have been mentored by many truly wonderful people. This started as an undergrad at the State University of New York at Oswego. In my large extended family, very few of us went to college, so when I started at Oswego, one of the coldest and snowiest places I've ever lived, the campus was actually on Lake Ontario. It was a completely new experience. It was great to have the support of my parents, but what I learned there was a completely new world of science that could be a future profession. I also learned about graduate school there, and there was a possibility of continuing my education to become a microbiologist. I also realized at Oswego that chemistry wasn't my path forward, but bacteria, they were what I wanted to do. From there, I moved on to the University of Buffalo, where I obtained my master's, but more importantly, I met my future PhD mentors, Dr. Marie-Louise Hammerschold and Dr. David Rikosh. At the time I joined the lab, they were just leaving UMB and moving their lab to the University of Virginia, and they said, "Come on, want to go?" I figured I haven't been out of New York State ever. I thought this would be a good idea. This was probably the best move I've ever made, as this was the beginning of a lifelong relationship with them. And they took the time to show me what was expected from a graduate student if you wanted to succeed in the future. I see them as my extended family, and I always look forward to seeing them when I pass through Charlottesville. After UVA, I spent a decade or more at the University of Washington in Seattle, first as a postdoctoral fellow in Sam Miller's laboratory, and then as research faculty in the Department of Medicine. In Sam's lab, I was exposed to something new, to the wide potential of collaboration and the idea that science wasn't carried out on an island. It took a community. Sam's lab was huge, exciting, well-funded, and had multiple projects going on simultaneously. In addition, we also interacted with other labs at UMB that were focused on immunology, cell biology, and mass spectrometry. Having this ability to see where your research sat within the context of a larger research group was very important in going forward and where I am today. Having the ability to present to and collaborate with so many labs allowed me to develop a broader picture of science, and this has been very fruitful for me throughout my career. In Seattle, I also met my longest-term collaborator, Dave Goodlett. As many of you know, Dave was at UMB for a while, but greener pastures called at the University of Victoria in Canada, where he will have unlimited access to mass spec potential, so Dave had to move on. And we all fully supported that because it was very important. It will be fun to see how an Alabama country boy adapts to the rainforests of Vancouver, though. He may be on the other side of the continent again, but the collaboration still lives on. To my colleagues at UMB, thank you for all your support. Science can be a very challenging profession, and having the ability to do it with like-minded folks is priceless. There are too many of you to list individually, but I would like to thank everyone in the Department of Microbial Pathogenesis, in the School of Dentistry, our fantastic support staff, and the house staff who take care of us on a daily basis. Specifically, Patrick, thank you for your support. It's always been invaluable. Additionally, I would also like to acknowledge Mark Shirtliff, who was my first friend and colleague at UMB, and eventually a brother from another mother. He is missed, but is never forgotten. Finally, to everyone who's ever been in my lab over the years, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Without you all, we couldn't have made it to where we are now, or excitedly where we will be in the future. And I didn't mistakenly say we. Everything we do together is us. Instead of trying to list all of you, hopefully a few photos through the years will bring back happy memories. As you all know and might be trying to forget, we are all an extended quasi-family, and I look forward to seeing all your future successes. My door is always open to you, and when we meet anywhere in the future, food and drink will always be on me, as I want to hear about your new achievements and, of course, reminisce about the past fun that we've had together. And finally, thank you to everyone in the dental school and the greater UMB community for this honor. I hope to live up to this prestige that comes along with this professorship in all future research.
Thank you, Dr. Ernst, and heartfelt congratulations on this very exciting occasion. This concludes our investiture ceremony. Again, thank you all for coming.